everybody and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I really hope you're all doing okay and having a great day and an amazing week. My name is Effy and today we are continuing on with our collection videos. So in this series I will be going through all the sections of my makeup. It is split into 6 videos and I will just be showing you everything I have in my collection. This is not a declutter, I'm sorry. My plan is to do a collection video at the start of every year and a declutter around the middle of every year, in the hopes that I can at least keep an eye on those products that aren't getting used in my collection. So in January I can spot what's not being used, and then if it's still not being used by July, I can declutter it. That's the idea at least. If you see anything in these collection videos that you would like me to do a video on, please do just let me know and I will try and do that for you. This is part 2 and we'll be focusing on blush, bronzers and highlights. Hopefully some swatches in there for you to enjoy. I'm going to keep this intro short so that you can get on with watching it, and I really hope you enjoy it. If you do enjoy it, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you like my content, please consider subscribing. I'm attempting to put up 2 videos a week this year and they are all makeup related, so if that sounds like your thing then this is the place for you. But other than that, enjoy the video. Okay, welcome to part 2. Today we are doing highlighters, blushes and bronzers, all of which are kept up here. Sorry, my finger is blurry, but up here I have all of my highlighters and then my bronzers and then my blushes. We've already done primers, foundations, concealers, powders and setting sprays, so it's just these ones today, and then lip products are down here. That'll be a different day, but we're focusing up here. I'm gonna grab them all out, put them on my table, and let's get going. Okay, so let's get started with blush. I always feel like I have too many blushes, but I'm looking at this and this isn't that many. They kind of all look the same, but they're all different, I promise. So let's get started. Let's start with my liquid blushes. Is that in focus? I hope so. So this is the NYX Sweet Cheeks blush in the shade Almost Famous. I was very kindly sent this by NYX, but I love it. It's like an orangey red kind of blush. I will be doing swatches in this video. This is obviously a bit more of a summer shade for me, but I really like this. I am trying to get more into cream and liquid blushes, and this is a really good formula. It blends out super easily. It is kind of a bit easy to go overboard, but I am starting to get used to using it now, and I think I am starting to get the hang of it, and I do quite like it. And I might pick up a couple more shades of this because I do honestly really like it, and I would like more of a wintry shade, so I might look into that. This is the Mako Beauty Cheek and Lip Tint. This was in a glossy box and I actually used it for the first time the other day. It is very pigmented. You have to be quite careful with it, in my opinion. I went a little bit overboard in my video. It's also quite like a red shade, so you can kind of see it next to the orange shade just how red it is. I quite like it. It's not terrible. I have to get used to using it, but it is a nice shade. Again, a bit more of a summery shade for me. Maybe that's just the theme of the liquid blushes, but yeah. It is nice. Another liquid blush here is the Nip and Fab liquid blush in the shade Sunset Glow, and I actually quite like this. It's very shimmery. I don't tend to go for a shimmery blush, but it's quite nice. Although the problem is I'm almost certain Nip and Fab don't do makeup anymore, which is a bit annoying. But this is a really nice shade. This for a long time was the only liquid blush I owned. I do quite like it, although looking at it, it's very glowy. That could almost be a highlight for somebody with much darker skin than me. But it's quite nice. It's more of a neutral shade as well, so maybe this is more of a winter shade for me. This isn't a declutter. I will be doing a declutter in like June, July time. This is just a makeup collection video showing you guys what's in my collection. If you want to see videos with any of these things in, please just let me know. I'm happy to do that for you. But this isn't a declutter, but I am doing this and keeping in mind that I will be decluttering my makeup soon. So anything that I'm sort of on the fence about now, I can keep an eye on and see whether I use them and see if my opinions change or anything like that. And if I'm still on the fence about them in July, I can declutter them. This is one I tested yesterday. I don't know if the video will be up before or after this video, but I tested XX Revolution. This is the Cloud blush in the shade Cirrus. It's kind of a cream blush formula. I Love this. Spoiler alert if you haven't already seen that video. But I love this cream blush. It is so, so pretty. It is a gorgeous shade. I'm pretty sure this was either £7 or £8. They do 4 of these. And I might pick up a couple more shades just because this one is stunning. It's kind of that lovely peachy pink shade, which I don't have a lot of, I don't think, in my collection. But yeah, this is a stunning, stunning formula. It looked really nice. It was buildable. It wasn't too pigmented. It was blendable. I absolutely love it. Then we move on to my powder blushes. Let's start with this one. This is the Lotty London Ombre blush in the shade Haze. It's so, so pretty. I did get this in a glossy box. This is a really nice shade. I think I've only used it a couple of times, but the fact that it is so small makes it so easy to just travel with. I say travel, the only traveling I do is back home for the weekend. This is another small one that's really good at throwing in my bag. This is the Collection Soft Glow Blusher in the shade Too Bashful, and this is just beautiful. This has been like a go-to shade for me recently. I love this shade. It's very similar to that Lotty London one. But for some reason, I pick this one over the Lotty London one fairly often. It has a little bit of glow to it. It's not shimmery. It's just got a little bit of a glow to it, which is super, super nice. This is a Primark PS Blush High Pigment Blusher in the shade In the Pink. It's probably the pinkest blush I own. I tend to not really go for like super, super pinky blushes. Yeah, you can see it's so much more pink than those other shades on my hand. But it is good to have something this pink in my collection if I need it. It's fairly pigmented, so you do have to be careful with it. But I do think this is really good. And for £1, it's not bad. I wish Primark did more shades of this as well, actually. This is probably my only other pink blush. This is the Ihop Revolution Heartbreakers blush in the shade Brave. I actually really like this. It smells really nice as well, which super helps. It's a super pale pink, but obviously if you go more into this side, it'll be a bit darker. And it's not that pigmented, as you can see. You do have to build it up a fair bit. Even on the cheeks, you have to build it up. But I quite like that. Blush is something where I either like it to be super, super pigmented, or I like to be able to build it. And especially with pink blushes, I feel like it definitely needs to be a bit more buildable. And the packaging is super, super cute as well. This is the blush that is in my project pan at the moment. This is the MUA Blushed Matte blush powder in the shade Rose Tea. This is a go-to everyday sort of shade for me. It is not too pigmented. It is buildable. It is lovely. It's sort of like a cooler toned pink, like compared to some of the other shades on my hand. But for me, that works really nicely because I have kind of a neutral skin tone. But if I want to do like a lighter makeup sort of look, this is really nice. I really, really like it. I might pick up more of these. This is the Beauty Bay powder blusher in the shade Coral. I did do a Beauty Bay testing video, and this is the blush I got. This is probably the orangiest, other than the NYX one. This is probably the orangiest blush I have, and I really quite like it. It's obviously not an everyday shade for me, okay? Everyday shade are these sort of peachy tones. But when I want to go more warm toned orange on the eyes or an orange lip, this works so, so well. It's very pigmented. You do have to go in with a light hand, which I learned in my Beauty Bay video, in case you didn't see. But it is really, really nice. And again, I'm pretty sure they have quite a few shades of this. Some with shimmer, some are just matte. I really want to pick up a couple more. I actually really like this blush, and I'm pretty sure it's like £6, but they're very often on sale for like £3.60. So if you see them on sale, definitely pick one up if you were thinking about it. I really like it, and I highly, highly recommend it. And then finally, in the blush collection, we have this. This is the Rude Cosmetics Blush Crush 9 colour blush palette in Level Up. This is the blue one. They also have a pink one. It looks like this. It's very, very pretty. It's very, very pigmented. I've used this a couple of times. The highlight is far too dark for me, obviously. Far too dark. I mean, oh, you can't even see it, sorry. Far too dark. Very pretty, but far too dark. Kind of matches my nails. The blushes, some of which are too dark. This is actually a really good formula. If you have darker tone than me, this will probably work really, really well for you. Although, just looking at this shade, this is super, super pale. Who's this working with? Is this just a powder? I guess I could probably use that. I don't know when, but I could. But yeah, this is a really good palette. I imagine the pink one is also really good quality. Although I will say, personally, I tend to go for singles over a palette. I don't know why, I just prefer singles. But there we go. That is all my blushes. Let's move on to bronzers. Bronzers. You can probably still see my blushes. I've shuffled them over here. This box over here is a full face of e.l.f. makeup. I will be filming that in a couple of days, but it won't be up till February. So in case you're wondering, there is this over here. And that stuff will all eventually make it into my collection. But it's not going to be in this collection series just because it's currently in that box and I've not tested it yet. So it's technically not part of my collection. Anywho, bronzers. This is the Primark Bronze Dreamer bronzer in the shade Enlighten. Looks like this. It's quite dark, I'll be honest. It's probably one of the darkest bronzers I have in my collection. I have to be super, super careful with this because it comes out quite pigmented. It works well enough. It doesn't go patchy in my opinion. It depends if I'm paying attention when I'm applying it. It is quite nice. It's probably not as reached for as some of my other bronzers just because it is so dark. But this is actually quite nice, and if you have a darker skin tone, I imagine this will work super, super well for you. And the packaging is kind of gorgeous. This one here is my collection Bronzed Glow bronzer in the shade 1 Terracotta. It is a matte bronzer. This is definitely one of my warmer tones. I did use this in a video that I filmed recently. It was the Instagram Chooses My Makeup. It went up last year, the end of last year. This is good, but for right now, which is like winter in the UK, it's far too warm toned. I mean, you can see it next to that other shade. It's just way too warm for me to use right now. I feel like this will get so much more use in the summer. It is a good bronzer. It's very easy to work with. It blends out. It's not too pigmented. It works well. It's just not a shade that I can use right now. Personally, I probably could, but I'd rather not. This one I tested yesterday. I don't know if the video's up yet, but this is the XX Revolution powder bronzer in the shade Demo. I quite liked this. It's not a bad shade. It's kind of the in-between of those two, to be honest, which actually is a really good thing because I kind of need an in-between of those two. I love the packaging. It's a nice enough bronzer, but I'm pretty sure this might be £10, maybe a bit more. I can't really remember. Is it worth £10 when I can get this one for like £3, or this one for £6, or this one for like £3? No. But it is nice. I don't think it's anything extraordinary, but, you know, it does its job. It'll get used, which is a good thing. They have quite a few shades of this as well, so if you need a darker shade, and I think they maybe have a lighter shade, I'm not sure. This is quite a nice one. Is it worth £10? Probably not, but it will get used. Beauty Bay powder bronzer in the shade Donut. I really, really like this. It's pretty much just a lighter version, slightly lighter version of that Demo one by XX Revolution. I really like this. I don't use it enough. It is quite pigmented. Again, need a light hand. The Beauty Bay products just are pigmented. If you're ever picking up anything from Beauty Bay, please bear that in mind. Because I don't want you to make a mess of your face like I did when I tested them. This is really nice though. It's a really nice shade. You can barely even see it next to that Demo shade. It is really nice. This is the MUA Bronzed Matte Bronzing Powder in the shade Solar 110. This is the matte version. They have a shimmery version. Let's pop you there. You can barely even see that. It is not pigmented. Like, it's not as pigmented as the others, but I quite like that. You can build it up. This has been like one of my favorites this year. It's a bit cooler toned than obviously this collection one. This is a really good shade for me. It's kind of an everyday shade for me. It's not too pigmented. You can build it up. It works well. It blends nicely. It's super cheap. I really like this. This is another Primark one. This is the PS Pro Luminous Sheer Glow and Finishing Powder in the shade 312 Medium. As you can tell by the name, It's actually not a bronzer, it's just a finishing powder for people with darker skin tones. But I love this. This is probably my favourite bronzer in my collection right now. Again, you can see it's kind of similar to the shades that I like. It isn't too pigmented, it works well, it blends well, it's so pretty. I love this bronzer. If you can find one that's dark enough for you that you can use as a bronzer, I highly, highly recommend it. And finally, we have this guy. This is in my project pan at the moment. Just the bronzer is in my project pan, but the highlight and blush are not too bad. Actually, I don't particularly care for the highlight. It doesn't do much for me. It doesn't excite me. Yeah, doesn't really do much. The blush is alright. It's very shimmery. It's sort of a pinky with a gold reflect to it. It's quite nice. This is the second one of these that I've bought in my lifetime, and the first one I completely used up all of the bronzer. Like, the entire thing was gone because I used it all. And I'm pretty sure I hit pan on the blush too, the highlight, just like this one. You can still see the writing on this highlight. That's how much I haven't used it. Just because it just doesn't do anything for me. I have better highlights in my collection, and I have better blush in my collection, hence why this, even though it is a full face palette, sits in my bronzers, because I love, love, love the bronzer. And it's in my project pan because I've had this since before I started YouTube, hence it's quite old at this point. And I just want to use it the bronzer because I know I can do it, I've done it before. That is all of my bronzers. I don't have that many, because bronzers, again, to me, they all kind of look the same. I mean, clearly they don't, but to me they're just not that exciting. Let's move on to highlights. I need to grab them out of my container. Okay, as you can probably see, my highlight collection is a touch bigger than my bronzer and blush collection. That's because I love highlight. And I plan on doing so many swatches, I've taken my watch off. We'll start here. This is the Ihop Revolution Bronze and Glow. As you can probably guess by the name, it does have a bronzer in here. I really, really like the highlight. It's a really, really nice highlight. The bronzer, I don't particularly care for. I think it's far too cool toned to call itself a bronzer. I know I prefer a slightly more cool toned bronzer. You can barely even see it, but yeah, I just don't really care for this one. I think it's more of a contour, and I don't really contour my face anymore. I used to, I don't anymore. But this highlight is actually super, super nice. And I really, really like it, but I just never reach for it because I know the bronzer's in here and I'll feel bad for not using the bronzer. I know I'm ridiculous, you don't need to tell me. But this is actually a super, super nice, glowy, glowy highlight. This is the MUA Light Luster Highlight Kit in Golden Kiss. It's 3 shades. These 2 work for me, this one doesn't. They are so stunning though. So that is the top shade, that is the middle shade, and that is the bottom shade. Ooh, stunning. They are a bit more powdery, but that can be solved with a bit of setting spray in my opinion. They are super, super pretty. I do try to use this one on my eyes when I can, but these 2 I reach for fairly often. I really like a pink toned highlight. I know not everybody does, but I do. And then also these sort of like champagne-y white shades I really like. So this is a firm favourite in my collection. Also, this is super, super cheap. And MUA are just good at highlighters. I have another one that I'll show you in a minute. But MUA do really, really good highlighters. This one here is one of my newer ones in my collection. This is the Soph Face Duo Highlighter Duo, whatever it's called, in Sugar Frosting, I think. It's like the lightest one. Yeah, Sugar Frosting. She did 3 of these in her newest Revolution collab, which I think was a really good idea. Because obviously people with different skin tones need different shades. They're just the last 2 on my arm. Super, super, super pretty, and I like the formula. They are sort of meant to be a newer version of this, and it's meant to be like these top 2 shades here. And I do agree, they are pretty much the same. The formula does feel different, but they look the same. And this is in my project pan because I want to use this up a lot more before I start digging into this. So this hasn't had much use. In fact, I think I've only used it maybe 3 times since I got it, and I got it when it launched, which was at some point last year. But it is really nice, and I imagine this will be super good for traveling, and the pan size is ginormous. This would last you forever. Might as well talk about this one now. I love this highlighter palette. I know that Sophie's redone it in those duos, but I love it. 5 shades work for me, and that is this one, this one, this one, this one, and the pink one, which I'll swatch in a moment. This is in my project pan, because like I said, I want to really use it up a bit more before I dig into the new one. And also I've had this in my collection for such a long time that I kind of want to use it up. I haven't even hit pan on it, but I love this palette. These other 3 shades are far too dark for me, but they are stunning. And I have said in my project pan I would like to try and use them on my eyes a bit, just to get some use out of them. Okay, we'll do this one as well. This is the Primark PS highlighter palette in Rose Luxe. They did have a bronze one and a gold one of this. 4 shades, 2 of them work for me. It tends to be just like the standard working. These are very, very icy. I'm just going to pop them here. These 2 are a bit too dark for me, but I do like to use them on like my inner corner and my eyelids. I don't know if you can see them, probably not in focus. There we go, that's a bit better. This pink shade, in my opinion, is not pink enough, so I do tend to mix it with this one to get it super, super pink, because I like a pink highlight. But they are nice, actually. They're not even that powdery. They're not too glittery either. They do have a little bit of glitter in there if you don't like glittery highlights. But again, a little bit of setting spray will really, really help these ones out. And this was £7, which isn't bad for 4 highlighters. It's not the cheapest price in the world, but it's not bad. And they are a decent formula. I did find with these, they kind of have like a hard overspray, so you do have to sort of rub at them before you get enough pigment off. But if you just, when you get them, give them a good rub with your finger, and then they should work fine. Okay, this one, XX Revolution, again, only tested this yesterday. This is in the shade Reactive. Pink toned, we love pink tones over here. This, I really was a bit questionable about. It's quite glittery. It is a glittery highlight, which isn't my favourite, but I'm not completely against it. I know some people hate glittery highlights. Doesn't bother me as much. I really like this shade. Again, it's one of those pinks that's not quite pink enough in my opinion, but it is quite nice, and you can really just see how glittery it is. Hopefully you can see that on camera. If I go a bit out of focus, you might see a bit better of how glittery it is. I quite like it. I'm not going to pick up any more shades of this. I think this might have been £12, I think. I'm not going to pick up more shades, but I am going to use this one now that I have it. I do quite like it. But just be aware, they do have quite a glittery formula. Let's do Ofra. I only have 3 Ofra highlights, and I have to be careful with these. This is Space Baby. When I tell you a tragedy happened, I dropped this. And literally all it did was fell off my lap and went onto the floor, and it smashed. So be very careful with these highlighters. This was a Nikki Tutorials collab. You can barely even see that because I'm terrible at swatching. This is sort of like a blue reflect, which I don't have anything else in my collection that has a blue reflect. So I keep this, and unfortunately I did lose about 2/3 of it, and I cried. I genuinely cried. My boyfriend was here, he can back me up. I cried for like 5 minutes because it was very upsetting, because I paid a lot for these. Ofra highlights aren't cheap, and I really love this, but every time I use it I think I should reach for it more. But it's not often that I do a look that really calls for a blue highlight, but I like having it in my collection so that I can use it when I do need it. But it's not an everyday shade for me. I doubt it would be an everyday shade for most people. This one is Pillow Talk. This is a pink one, which again I really like, but for some reason, bearing in mind how much I love pink highlight, I don't reach for this that often. Let's pop it there. There we go. Can you see that? I don't know. I'm tired. These are not great videos. This is a beautiful highlight, and it actually is pink enough in my opinion. It's super, super pretty. It doesn't leave a cast on my face, which I'm really thankful for. I just sometimes feel bad reaching for such expensive highlights in my videos, just because you don't need to spend this much on a highlight to get a really good highlight. But I feel like I shouldn't neglect them as much as I do, because they are in my collection. I probably bought these when they were on sale on Beauty Bay, so I didn't pay full price. And then finally we have Glazed Donut. This is sort of the one that everybody loves. I don't know why it looks so weird in the middle there, but it works absolutely fine. It is a gorgeous, gorgeous highlight. Sort of like a white champagne-y shade. I love this highlight. This was the first one I bought from Ofra. Again, I bought it on sale. I absolutely love it. It's so, so pretty. I've already gushed about Ofra highlights enough, but this is a really, really good one if you have pale skin. This is another Primark one. This is the Diamond Bomb Highlight Powder. It looks like this. This isn't my favourite. It is super powdery and quite glittery, which isn't my favourite. I'm just going to pop it there. It is quite a nice highlight. It's very white, even though it does have peach and pink in there. It's just very powdery. You've got to be very careful with it. I did make a mess the first time I used it, but it does look very nice. It's not my worst highlight. We'll get onto that one. But yeah, I quite like it. It's nice. And for £3, not bad. And they probably do like 3 or 4 different shades of this. Speaking of my worst highlight, I'm really sorry, collection, but this is the Collection Gorgeous Glow highlighter in the shade 1 Opal. This is not a highlight. I don't care what anybody says. That is a powder. It is not shimmery. It doesn't do anything. I hate this highlight. That is a strong turn of phrase, but it just does nothing. I understand that some people want a subtle highlight. This is beyond subtle. This is like pretty much non-existent. There is no shimmer on my hand whatsoever. This one by MUA, this is so beaten up. This belonged to a friend. The lid is broken. This belonged to a friend, and then she decluttered it years ago and gave it to me. This is the Undress Your Skin in the shade Iridescent Gold. It is a stunning, stunning, look at that. It's a stunning highlight. Just going to put it on my hand. Yep, cool. Stunning highlight. Again, with this one, if you get it, you kind of have to like rub away the overspray before you get any pigment. But my days, this is a beautiful highlight. It is so pigmented. It's so golden. This is probably the most golden I can go before it's too much on my skin tone. I'm pretty sure there is a little bit of pan right there. Between me and my friend, we have managed to hit pan on it. This is really good. She decluttered it because she has darker skin than me, and this was probably just a bit too icy for her, but it is super, super nice, and I really, really like it. And actually, these highlights by MUA, I should probably just glue the packaging back together. These highlights, the Undress Your Skin highlights, are so amazing, and they're super, super cheap as well, like super inexpensive. The Beauty Bay powder highlight in the shade Flash. This is the lightest shade they do. It is very, very icy. My friend who gave me that MUA one came over and swatched this, and she was amazed at how icy it is. It's very, very icy. It's beautiful, but it's very, very icy, and it's very, very pigmented. You need the lightest hand with this highlight. I tested, in fact, if you watch my Beauty Bay testing video, the theme of that is that I went in too heavy-handed with pretty much everything. It was a mess, but I have used this since. I really, really like it. It is very intense. Like, you need an occasion that calls for this, but it is really, really good. Also, it's not glittery. It's like a wet look. It's stunning. This is the Wet n Wild Hello Halo Mega Glow in the shade Halo Gorgeous. This is the only liquid highlight I own, and I only tested it recently. I'm not sold on liquid highlights. It is a pink shade, which I love. It is slightly too pink for my skin tone. I think it does leave a bit of a cast, but it is super nice, and it did work with my sponge as well as my finger. It didn't look great on my nose, I will say that. But I've only tested this once, and I do feel like I need to test it a bit more. And like I said in that video, I'd rather have something like this, which is super inexpensive, and test it and then decide I don't like it, than buy a like Iconic London liquid highlighter, which costs like over 20 quid, not like it, and then have to declutter it. At least with this, I can test it as much as I want, and it probably only costs like £3. I did actually win this in a giveaway held by a girl I know on Instagram, so I didn't pay for this at all. But I'd rather test out a cheap one than get a super expensive one. Finally, dun dun dun, I have a Jeffree Star highlight. This is, again, another highlight that a friend decluttered. I did not pay for this. She has had it in her collection for years. This is the Skin Frost in the shade Jeffree. She bought this before the Jeffree Star drama came out. It's far too pink for her. I like a pink highlight. This is almost like a lilac highlight, to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that you need this highlight, because I don't agree with Jeffree Star as a person, and because of that I choose not to put my money into his bank account. I do have 3 Jeffree Star items in my collection, one of which I bought many years ago. This one, which was given to me by a friend who bought it many years ago. And the third thing I have is an eyeshadow palette that my friend bought me for my birthday, which I'm obviously not going to get rid of because it was a gift from my friend, but you won't see it in videos or anything like that, other than collection videos and declutter videos. You won't see it, you won't see me use it because I don't want to promote him. But there we go, that is all my highlights, and that is the end of this collection video. I will let Effie do the outro because I'm sure she tells you everything you need to know. See you in the next one. Okay, that is the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. I certainly have enjoyed going through my makeup, and I definitely have spotted a few products that I should keep an eye on for decluttering in July. If you like this video, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you like my content, please consider subscribing. But other than that, I hope you have a great day and an amazing week, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.